Welcome to Conservative Roundtable. I'm your host, Marianne Collins-King. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. As I mentioned in our last show, if any of you are interested in becoming an audience member, or if you happen to have some conservative commentary, such as on YouTube, or something you may have taped elsewhere that is in reference to, let's say, a conservative event that is happening either locally or nationally, please let us know. Contact our executive director, John Estrada, and he can be contacted at johnestrada.com. Again, thank you for joining us. We have a great lineup of guests this evening. Our first guest is Tess Andress. She's running for U.S. Congress, the 22nd District of California. We have two guests who are going to be supporting the CIRRA, and we'll get into that a little bit more in the show. That will be Dr. Mike Liddell and Gabe Silva. And then also we have Philip Young. We are going to be visiting with him via Skype, and he is the Amador Committee Communications Chair. Thank you for joining us, and please stay tuned.
Deported U.S. military veterans. It almost sounds like an oxymoron, but believe it or not, a large number of former military service men and women have been deported. Tonight in a Fox 40 special report, Joe Khalil brings us a story of a community of deported vets and how they're working together to offer each other support in the most unlikely of circumstances.
At this cemetery in Madera, California, flags mark the resting places of the town's sons and daughters who've served in the military. Yet some 400 miles away in Tijuana, Mexico, one of Madera's own, former Private First Class Andres de Leon, legally can't even visit the site where he hopes to be laid to rest. Not until he's in a coffin. Did you feel betrayed?
In a way, yes. I feel that they did me wrong because I risked my life for Uncle Sam just so they could, and then in the end I get deported.
Yes, a veteran, deported. At 18, in the throes of the Vietnam War, De Leon enlisted in the Army. After 12 years of service, he was honorably discharged.
Okay, this is my home.
Today, at 72, De Leon lives alone in a small one-room house in one of the poorer pockets of Tijuana.
I got no choice. I was deported and I have to stay here, but I'm doing the best I can.
The path that led De Leon to this point begins where his story will end, in Madera, California, with his family.
He wants to come home with his kids, his grandkids, the family.
De Leon's sister Elizabeth worries about his health. He's a type 2 diabetic.
That worries me very much, that something might happen to my brother, and I'm going to be torn apart.
Their parents came to Madera legally from Mexico when De Leon was 12. The veteran's most trying battle wouldn't be waged until decades later, following the death of his mother.
He would take my mom everywhere. That really pushed him to the edge.
De Leon fell into a deep depression, and at age 63, he got hooked on heroin. Eventually arrested for possession, he served almost 3 years. Near the end of his term at Soledad State Prison, Immigration Customs Enforcement agents told him he wouldn't be returning home.
I said, what? He said, they're going to deport me. I said, no, they can't.
October 2009, an immigration judge ordered De Leon deported to Mexico, a country he hadn't seen in more than 50 years.
I was in shock. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe that they would deport a veteran with an honorable discharge.
3 generations later, all these De Leons have of their grandfather are stories.
How old is your youngest son now?
He's now 8 years old.
So in his 8 years, he's never
seen him, he's never spoke to him, he's never held his hand.
In Tijuana, De Leon had no friends, no family. He spent his first few weeks homeless. If you knew that you were going to be deported, would you have enlisted at all in the military?
I don't think so. No, you're going to did me wrong, no.
De Leon assumed he was the only U.S. military veteran deported to Tijuana until he met Hector Barajas.
I basically opened up my doors for were deported.
A former paratrooper in the 82nd Airborne, Hector, who grew up in L.A., was also living deported in Tijuana and knew dozens of veterans like De Leon. In 2013, he founded this Deported Veterans Support House.
We believe that none of these men should be left behind. We talk about supporting the troops. Let's keep supporting these men, treat these men with honor.
There are an estimated 100,000 people deported from the U.S. living in Tijuana right now. Now, there's no government agency that keeps track of how many of those people are veterans. Hector just anecdotally thinks that there are a couple of hundred, if not more than 1,000. 15 vets have come through the support house so far for food, temporary housing, sometimes just to feel they belong.
Do you feel like you're a family here?
Something like that, yes.
Are you here every day?
Yeah, well, yeah, just about.
De Leon is resigned to the possibility that he may never again see the United States. But both he and Hector know they're entitled to a proper veteran's burial.
I've been told that the only way I can return is dead. So if dead is the only way I can return, I would like to be buried with my friends in the Catholic Cemetery of Madera, California.
Why would they honor us only when we die? They're going to give an American flag to our families and say thank you for your service to your country. If you want to honor our men, you want to honor our veterans, let them get their treatment, let them live with their families.
Both Hector and the De Leon family continue to fight for deported veterans' rights, hoping that the next time they see De Leon on American soil, it won't have to be here. Joe Khalil, Fox 40 News.
CentralValleyTalk.com.
Welcome back to Conservative Roundtable. I'm Marianne Collins King, your host, and tonight we have the honor of having Tess Andress here. As I mentioned before, she is running for U.S. Congress in the 22nd District of California. Welcome, Tess. It's so good to see you and meet you this evening.
Me too. I'm happy to meet you here.
Yes, this is wonderful. Now, I briefly looked at your website, and there's one quote that I read that I really resonated with. It states, "We cannot solve our problems with the same thinking we used to have when we created them." Mm-hmm. Albert Einstein. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Tell me a little bit more about that and how you relate to that particular quote that's on your site.
Say, life in this world evolves.
Yes.
Right? So what we use before, few people, mm-hmm. now a lot of it.
Right.
Different cultures are right now in here.
Mm-hmm.
So what we used before could not be really effective this time.
That's right.
Immigration alone,
mm-hmm.
it's not effective anymore.
Mm-hmm.
But we need to be, when it comes to illegal immigration, like us, we Filipinos, we come to America,
mm-hmm.
legally, we have visa.
Yes.
We have to come here.
Right.
Now, before taking our families here,
mm-hmm.
we need to line up, wait for time.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't make our visas lapse, lapse.
So there's a respect of the process as far as entering the country, as it should be with every other country.
Yes.
Yes.
You need to follow the laws.
Yes. Okay.
If all of the immigrants will follow the laws of
mm-hmm.
the country they wanted to go, there will be no problem.
Right.
Even the government will be more, useful to them because they come here like me. I
mm-hmm.
came here because I believe this country is the land of the free and the home of the brave.
It certainly is.
Certainly is. Imagine that.
Yeah. So let's take one step back
mm-hmm.
as far as talking a little bit more
mm-hmm.
about you.
Mm-hmm.
What was the defining moment when you realized, I think I'm going to run for office?
That is really a great. Before I don't think of, because Devin is my friend. Right. No personal thing here, okay?
So Devin Nunes, he's your opponent.
Is my opponent,
this particular
District 22.
Okay.
But I came to realize that in 2014, when I ran for office,
mm-hmm.
State Assembly, there was a wake-up call already for Devin.
Mm-hmm.
His candidate at that time was Rode Mendoza.
Yes.
The government, the administration supported him a lot.
Mm-hmm.
They spent a lot.
Mm-hmm.
We were 7 running on that. 4 Republicans and 3 Democrats.
Mm-hmm.
I spent a lot of money last time, $25,000. And one that won with just a shoestring budget.
Yeah.
$12,000. Devon Mathis.
Mm-hmm.
So meaning, it's not the money here. Because it happened, people had spoken.
Right.
So they're telling me, oh, you're running against Nunes? Yes, millions, yes. Everybody starts with nothing. You see? Everybody starts small.
True.
So they become big. But what I wanted in this race is really to make a difference already. I wanted to serve. I've been up with my life already. I did what I want already in my life. I traveled, I did, like everything I did already.
Yes.
But the last thing I want to give back to the community that I love.
That's right. So this is an opportunity for
This
you
is the
to run
opportunity.
and to serve the citizens of your community.
Yes, that's why I run for this office.
Excellent. Excellent.
Yeah.
Very good. So, obviously, one of your platforms would be immigration. What are let's talk about probably, if we have time, 2 or 3 more main platform items that you would like to discuss this evening. Briefly.
Briefly, yes.
This is an hour show. I wish it was.
I know that.
I'm sure we would have a great
Briefly,
conversation.
Yes, briefly, this environment, our, forest management. We have 29 million of dead trees in our parks. So why left that there? Why not cut all those and make into a lumber? And that's a shovel-ready work for people. And aside from lumber, you can use that as, what's this? Paper.
It's job creation.
Yeah, paper. After that, all you need to do is reforest. So if there are fresh trees in there, then there will be no erosion, water erosions. You see? And we are preserving more water for our valley.
Right.
Because
and
the
water,
roots holds.
Water is the huge issue.
Yeah, that's the huge thing.
That's a huge platform issue.
Yeah, that's my number
so
one.
So in terms of water, and I'm very familiar with Mr. Nunez, his platform and how he's been working with it with his team. How would you work similarly and how would you work different to make a difference in your district?
Really, water is the main issue, but I have my plan is this. We have a lot of reservoirs, okay? Old reservoirs. Why not improve that, Raise the level, dredge, so the silt will be removed, so we'll have good reservoirs. Instead of we have the Temperance Flat.
I was just going to ask you, how do you feel about the Temperance Flat situation?
Well, a very good plan. That's $3 billion budget for that.
Yes.
But it will start on 2030. My point is this. Why wait for 15 years when we need the water now? Maybe earlier, 2 to 3 years, instead of 15 years. What's the purpose of that? It is just like, what will you do with the horse when they're already dead? What will you do with the green grass when the horses are dead already?
Right.
Okay.
In reference to water, there are several articles in reference to the drought and water itself, in reference to the Central Valley, and many people have discussed the fact that based on our lack of proper storage, probably 2 or 3 or 4 decades ago, that's the main source as to why we're in the situation we're in today. What are your thoughts on that, and do you agree with that, or what else would you like to add?
I would like to add that, look, we have reservoirs. Okay, I agree that we have not enough reservoirs. But look, we're wasting all those water to the sea. Just flow it away because of the fish.
Like, for example, it's been raining. We had a nice snowpack. That's all going to go out to the ocean. And our farmers, I know firsthand, they're not thrilled about that. So,
and look, good, our farmers are really making this time the basin, like pooling basin. Like, imagine they make their own, temporarily to save all those rains and those snows. We have good snows this time. Snowpacks.
Pretty amazing.
Very good.
Beautiful.
Yeah, beautiful.
So come out to visit Yosemite.
Yeah. So my point is, why not make use of those for our valleys, And, I mean, why waste the water? You mean the fish are more important than human beings?
So what would be your plan? What would be your strategy if you were elected in office in reference to this particular platform, which is a huge platform?
Very huge. I will really negotiate. I will reach out to all parties because water is not only for Republican, for Democrat, for Independent. It's for everybody.
Yes.
Everybody needs to live.
Yes.
So I will negotiate with them.
Right.
I will negotiate.
Yeah.
Because they're human beings.
And negotiation is key. And to be quite frank with you,
yes.
I think you probably agree with me across the board.
Negotiate.
In reference to compromise and negotiation, doesn't always mean both parties are going to be happy.
No.
It's all giving a little.
Compromise.
As far as,
Yeah.
what works. So
Yes.
we have a few minutes, and to wrap this up, what are the main points you would like our viewers to know about Tess running for District 22, and what would you like for them to remember before the vote?
The only thing I would like to really reach out to my fellow patriots, that I wanted to serve our country. I want to give back. And with my experience back in the Philippines, I worked during the administration of President Ramos, who was a West Point president. I was his special assistant of his executive secretary, Idelmero Amante, and I was tasked to do most important tasks that not everybody can do it. So if I had that experience, I wanted to share it here in America, because this is already where I am.
That's right.
This is my country already. I'm proud of it.
And you want to serve.
And I want to serve.
Yes.
The remaining years of my life,
Yes.
I wanted to serve
Excellent.
and give voice to the people who cannot really
Very good.
speak up.
So how shall we reach you? What website do you have, so that perhaps there could be persons who'd like to donate or learn a little bit more about you and your platforms? What is your
Yes.
website or
Well,
a number?
You can reach out to www.andressforcongress.com. And my phone number is 559-936-7555. And my campaign manager is John Essex. You can reach out to him anytime.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much, Tess. It was such a pleasure to
Thank
meet
you so much,
We wish you
Maya.
the very best in
Thank
this
you.
race.
Good
I know it's
luck.
going to be an exciting year.
Yes.
And thank you, everyone, and stay tuned.
Thank you.
Look, I got the Trump action figure. No way, that's huge. What does he do? He pretends to be a Republican. I like bailouts for the banks. Too big to fail. I gave money to Pelosi, Reid, and Anthony Weiner. Hey, Hillary. I'll give you money to be my friend. Check out my house, Mr. Trump. That's a lousy house. I'm gonna take your house with eminent domain and park my limos there. Eminent domain!
We wouldn't tolerate these values in our children. Why would we want them in a president?
Eminent domain!
And there's your beautiful baby. Any day now.
Really? You're eating Doritos? He's eating Doritos on my ultrasound. Do you see what I have to do?
I know.
Give me that.
I mean, hey, I lived in New York City and Manhattan all my life, okay? So, you know, my views are a little bit different than if I lived in Iowa.
They are different, like on abortion.
Would President Trump ban partial birth abortion?
Well, look, I am pro-choice in every respect.
And what does Trump think about Iowa?
How stupid are the people of Iowa?
Donald Trump, New York values, not ours.
You know, my views are a little bit different than if I lived in Iowa.
I'm Ted Cruz, and I approve this message.
Look, I got the Trump action figure. No way, that's huge. What does he do? He pretends to be a Republican. I like bailouts for the banks. Too big to fail. I gave money to Pelosi, Reid, and Anthony Weiner. Hey, Hillary. I'll give you money to be my friend. Check out my house, Mr. Trump. That's a lousy house. I'm gonna take your house with eminent domain and park my limos there. Eminent domain!
We wouldn't tolerate these values in our children. Why would we want them in a president?
Welcome back to Conservative Roundtable. I am your host, Marianne Collins King, and this evening we have two guests sitting with us, and they are from the CIRRA, Mike Liddell and Gabe Silva. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Marianne. Thank you for having us.
So there's two of you, so of course we can kind of ping pong back and forth as far as questions. So who would like to answer the question as far as the acronym CIRRA, and there's 3 R's in that?
Correct. I'll let Garbriel answer that question.
Okay, yeah. It's called the California Initiative Referendum and Recall Reform Act of 2016.
Wonderful. And what does that mean to us, the viewers?
Well, what that means is that, in 1911, the Congress implemented a law to where citizens could introduce their own legislation. They could shoot down legislation with a referendum. If they didn't like it, they could put it to a vote. All these processes are put it to a vote for the people if they wanted to vote on it. And then the recall is to oust an elected official out of office. And all these 3 processes, they were implemented in 1911, and they haven't been modernized since.
Since 1911?
Yeah, with all the technological advances and everything.
That's shocking to me.
Yeah, so I think it's pretty much time for a modernization.
And this is why you're here.
Exactly.
So how did this all come together? How do you two know one another? How did you come together for this type of advocacy?
Well, the platform happens to when I started digging into all of this, there was a moment where we all go through the frustrations involved with the political conversations that we grow up with, and all the little things that everybody has. We have disconnects politically, and what we're after is, when we first set into this, to literally dig into the California Constitution.
Yes.
Article 2, Initiative, Referendum, and Recall, Section 1, it says that the political power is inherent in the people.
Yes.
And so when you watch these initiative, referendums, and recall processes happen, and we see them happening for special interest groups, what we don't see is them happening for the voters. Regular average voters aren't really kicking in and using these things. And if these processes are really literally inherent in the people, and we're supposed to be using them to reform our government, well, Garbriel and I are here to use these processes and reform them. But what happens is we came across the main reason why these things do not work. The disconnect, why referendums, initiatives, and recalls don't serve us, is the signature gathering threshold required to qualify them. So the modernization that Garbriel's speaking to has to do with bringing those up to speed. We're asking for electronic signature processes to happen, which brings us up to date.
Up to the modern day.
Up to the modern day. And we've done it in a way that this reform is literally coming from average voters, and we're taking care of the process so that average voters can trust it. And we're asking for transparency with our initiative proposal. We're asking for a PDF paper download as well to happen with our initiative. These are alternatives to being able to electronically sign directly with the Secretary of State.
Okay. And the thing that's so great about your advocacy, and we've talked about this briefly on Conservative Roundtable, that Articles 1, 2, and 3 are primarily about our freedoms as individuals in our country. So a couple of shows ago, I said, okay, I have a prescription. All of us go back and read our Constitution, Bill of Rights, Declaration of Independence, Articles 1, 2, and 3. It's so important because once we have a better understanding of all of those, this process as far as voting this next year is really going to, I think, allow our conscience to vote properly. And to me, at this point, I'm not quite sure I could see another progressive in office. And so here at Conservative Roundtable, we want to ensure that our viewers are very aware that, we have the Constitution Bill of Rights. We have all this information at our fingertips, and for us to understand it better. So I appreciate the fact that both of you are advocating upon these articles. And again, to our viewers, it's about our freedoms.
Yeah.
So
it's important because, not every state has these opportunities. California is one of the few states that
and this
do
is
have these
so
processes.
good that this is so wonderful that you're sharing this information, because
Yeah.
I know something about politics, but I'm no expert, and I really appreciate it, and I love learning more. And this is helpful to me, to our viewers, even everyone here in the room. So, and especially in California, that's a tricky state. We love our state, but it's a tricky state.
The beautiful thing about our proposal here is, we have a pretty entrenched bipartisan world that we are at odds with. And this particular proposal is, we feel, completely nonpartisan. And the reason being is that initiative referendums and recalls are our constitutional right per Article 2, and the ideal that we're just asking for a procedural fix to make these three processes work more efficiently.
Right, more fluid.
We're not changing anything. We're just making one little tiny fix happen and work a little bit better. And in doing that, what this does is it literally puts what we call a fourth branch of government back into the mix, the people's branch.
Right.
We've been getting left off of that political discussion table, and now it's time to put the voters back into the mix. This topic accomplishes that, and the implications of the voters having say, again, it's incredible. And I can't wait till we're all at the table working through this stuff together again.
And it really comes back to we the people.
We the people.
Did you have to recite that in school when you're growing up?
Absolutely.
I did. I'm not sure. Are they reciting that in school nowadays? Does anyone have elementary school
I'm not sure.
children?
I think so.
I don't think they are. In the Gettysburg Address?
And let alone discussing in the classroom initiative, referendum, and recall processes.
Not a clue.
Most adults don't have that idea. So when you get onto our websites, we actually have two websites pointing at the same information.
So you have two Facebook pages.
Yes.
And then you have two websites?
Correct.
As well? Okay.
So actually we have 58 websites, one for each county.
Well, that makes sense.
Vote Amador, all the way down to Vote Yolo County. We have websites set up for every single county to participate in our signature gathering effort. The signature gathering effort, the platform on Facebook, through the parent group VOTE, V-O-T-E, and it stands for Voters Organized to Engage. That's the foundation to answer the first question.
Excellent.
That's what it started with.
Okay.
Was a Facebook platform to overcome the signature gathering threshold problem.
Okay.
So now that we have the problem in mind, now we have the fix. The fix is the electronic signing process. So then we've also added the transparency of the signatures to be literally tallied in front of us on the Secretary of State's website.
Okay.
So there's a lot of uncertainty on, would we like a electronic process to happen? And the reality is we're not talking about electronic ballot voting. We're talking about giving a little slack to the electronic system so we can get all the control back on whether we even want electronic signing.
Right. Because at that point, it will be the people who are going to decide.
Right.
And that's what it comes down to.
And when we're in control over
Yes.
that stuff, we might just feel a lot better about doing whatever we want.
And, it'll be softer on your conscience as well.
Right.
So a lot of times, some folks, they'll say, I'm not quite sure if I like this candidate or that candidate. I'm thinking, now you are voting, right?
Right.
And interesting enough, I have some good friends. Gosh, I grew up with them. And the one friend, he's a chiropractor, but he's in Arizona, and he says, I am not into politics whatsoever. I said, how could you not be in politics whatsoever? Don't you have two 12-year-olds? I mean, it makes such a huge difference.
Politics is inherent in our lives, and we've come to, for me to share a little personal, growing up, having, the family Thanksgiving dinner, and a little wine starts to flow, and the conversations start to ensue, and it's always this problem of I've got this view, you have that view, and when we get to a place where we don't feel like we're being heard,
Right.
and we don't have a way to resolve our problems between us,
That's right.
that's where things start to spark, and we don't get along anymore, and there goes Thanksgiving dinner, right?
That's right. Yeah, so many times they say, okay, so don't talk about religion or politics or culture. And I'm like, don't invite me to dinner then.
Right.
That's my response. So now, all right, so we talked about VOTE. We talked about CIRRA. Again, I'm going to say it, California Initiative Referendum Recall and Reform Act of 2016.
Correct.
Okay, very good. Now, we're going to touch on the who, the what, the where, the when, the how. What are the gateways as far as the most efficient websites for our viewers to understand more about this process and the advocacy?
Everything is on the website.
Okay.
And so it's completely functional. It has the links to all of our counties.
Okay.
We'll be putting up fundraising information as well.
Oh, great.
But
Tell us more about the fundraising part, because I was unaware of that.
the fundraising, what we're after is running a complete initiative referendum or initiative process, and we're after transparency. And so we're also after running a campaign that we're only asking for what we need financially to cover our costs as we go. So we're going to be showing everything up front out to everybody on. So the initial fundraising costs are going to be surrounding petition signature gathering, making the petitions, and getting the petitions distributed and back. So our websites and our Facebook pages, we are going to distribute and show all of that information along the way, so everybody sees what we're doing.
Excellent, excellent. So, Gabe, you're from Sacramento, is that correct? And you traveled down here to be with us this evening?
Yes.
Thank you for being here. And are you from Sacramento as well?
A little further, Placerville.
You're from Placerville. Okay, well, thank you for being here this evening. And this is outstanding information. I did not know about VOTE. I did not know, so I'm learning something as well. But I'm hoping that our viewers that are with us this evening, they will take this opportunity to recognize their rights. So again, it comes down to we the people versus we the political corruption.
The special interests that are in charge of our politicians. Yes.
So I vote for we the people.
Absolutely, every time.
Yes, excellent. So is there anything else you'd like to add?
Yeah, the website is CIRRA, that's 3 R's.
The 3 R's.
Yes,
okay.
CIRRA.
Okay.
.com, or
Okay.
of 2016.com. And
okay,
then
so basically what's on the screen
what's on
there.
the screen.
Okay,
and then,
all together and .com.
Yeah, and then also the other website is votersorganizedtoengage.org.
So www.votersorganizedtoengage.org.
Got
Correct.
it. I'm writing that down.
Yeah, and it's very important, to get on board with this because it affects us all. And most people they have their driver's license, their signatures on file with DMV. People get student loans with the electronic PIN. You register to vote electronically. It just makes sense. It's like it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when, and that when is now.
Right.
So we'd like people to join us because it's in all of our best interests.
So how often are you out and about advocating?
Every day, all day.
Okay, all day.
Yeah, everybody in my world is literally.
Because a lot of this is
online,
online, which is excellent. But as far as you two physically being out there and taking that opportunity to talk to citizens,
every single person that we come across,
grocery store, at work.
Well, see, that's the thing is that 8 out of 10 Americans have internet access.
Yes.
And so in our day-to-day, communication, a lot of it's electronic. So, that's another reason this makes sense. Right now, to get an initiative to pass, you have to have, thousands and thousands of signatures gathered in front of, public market squares, grocery stores and stuff like that. And, sometimes, most of the time, a lot of people, they walk right out of the grocery store. They're busy. We have busy lives nowadays. So they walk right by and they don't really even want to hear a petitioner.
Right.
And, and us everyday people who these processes were intended for, we don't have time to go stand out in front of these places.
Right.
So what ends up happening is these large special interest groups, they can pay signature gatherers thousands and thousands of dollars to go do it. So it's really not really benefiting us. We're not really utilizing these processes that were intended for us. So that's kind of why we want to bring this back, because most of us are on our devices and and so that's where we want to bring it to, so that we can actually get out there and widen the
because it's not 1911 anymore.
Yeah, which brings us to actually the most interesting part of what we have going here, and that's the platform of signature gathering that we're after. And so with the parent group, Vote, Voters Organized to Engage, the platform is set at, we're looking to get 5,000 social media, Facebook participants.
Okay.
And if we get 5,000 participants, each willing to get a minimum of 100 qualified registered voter signatures to support this goes on the ballot. And so we've set up a whole system, to where this is organized. So voters organized to engage. So now we're in this organizational phase.
Right.
And so we're looking to do some pretty unprecedented stuff with this campaign. We literally still have a shot at putting this on the November 2016 ballot.
I think that's fantastic.
And it's an amazing, amazing opportunity for us to weigh in right now and do something right now.
So you two did you create this?
How
did this all come together?
We've been creating all of this for about 3 months or so now. The Vote platform Facebook page was the initial building block, and so obviously getting closer to campaign time, kicking it off, paying the filing fees and getting the Attorney General to get it posted and up and running. So we are on a 65-day ticker right at the moment, waiting for the Attorney General to kick this back to us. And when they do, then we can go into petition making and distributing mode, and we set this, if it works just the way we like, to happen in a 2-week window.
Excellent.
Which is going to be unprecedented.
So this is a grassroots effort, and this is the time for fertilization, is what I'm hearing you say.
Absolutely.
And it's kind of the David and Goliath type of situation is what I'm thinking.
Those terms are actually used in the website.
No, they're not.
They are. They are.
Because I said to you, so I said to them, I didn't really, read too much about the website because I would prefer that our guests really share their story to me and to all of you firsthand without knowing too much.
You're gonna love going back through the website
wonderful.
and reading it, and when that stuff kicks in, it's going to be very, very. It's all there. Everything's
we
there.
hope it motivates people.
Well, and that's the whole point, and it's about advocacy, and the more people know, the better we all do. And
This is the only direct effect that citizens can have, the voters can have on our democracy. This brings it like a direct democracy in play here, and they're trying to make it harder. They've raised it from $200 to file an initiative to $2,000. That's like 1,000% raise.
That's a ridiculous increase.
They're making the hurdle a little bit bigger, but we can nip that in the bud right now if we get this through. It can benefit everyone's cause. As we said before, this is neutral. It's for everyone. It'll benefit everybody.
Fantastic. I love the concept, love the idea, love the grassroots situation. So we have about a minute here. So between the two of you, what are your final words about Vote and CIRRA?
The final words is that this is, again, a nonpartisan effort, and we are honored to be able to bring this topic to the voters of California, to share it, and to literally give it to every other voter like it was literally their initiative that they wrote and they want to see it grow and be in effect. This is something that it's no longer somebody's writing. This belongs to all of us. And so it's time to share it, it's time to grow it, and we don't want to miss the opportunity on this one.
Good.
Chance for freedom.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much.
Thanks
it was such a
for having
pleasure to meet both of you.
Thank you very much. Really
and
appreciate it.
we wish you the very best. I'm going to really dig into that website a little bit more and check out those Facebook pages. So I suggest all of our viewers do the same. Thank you so much, and stay tuned.
And there's your beautiful baby. Any day now.
Really? You're eating Doritos? He's eating Doritos on my ultrasound. Do you see what I have to deal with?
I know.
Give me that.
Hello, Mary Ann. How you doing? Good. Nice weather we're having, huh? Sure.
Deported U.S. military veterans. It almost sounds like an oxymoron, but believe it or not, a large number of former military service men and women have been deported. Tonight in a Fox 40 special report, Joe Khalil brings us a story of a community of deported vets and how they're working together to offer each other support in the most unlikely of circumstances.
At this cemetery in Madera, California, flags mark the resting places of the town's sons and daughters who've served in the military. Yet some 400 miles away in Tijuana, Mexico, one of Madera's own, former Private First Class Andres de Leon, legally can't even visit the site where he hopes to be laid to rest. Not until he's in a coffin.
Did you feel betrayed?
In a way, yes. I feel that they did me wrong because I risked my life for Uncle Sam just so they can, then in the end I get deported.
Yes, a veteran, deported. At 18, in the throes of the Vietnam War, De Leon enlisted in the Army after...
And there's your beautiful baby. Any day now.
Really? You're eating Doritos? He's eating Doritos at my ultrasound. Do you see what I have to do?
I know.
Give me that.
CentralValleyTalk.com. Hello and welcome back to Conservative Roundtable. I'm your host, Marianne Collins King, and this evening via Skype we have Philip Young. Welcome, Philip. How are you this evening?
Hello. How are you? Very good.
Great. Philip is the Amador County representative of the Amador County representative of communications. He is the chair, and there's various accolades as well. Philip, would you share with the viewers what you're doing? Tell us about you.
Sure. Well, I've been a conservative for a number of years. The main reason has been because of the Obama administration and the absolute travesty. The actions that he's taken, I think it's a call to action for anyone that has any interest and desire and love for this country to get involved in politics at this moment, especially this election. This is a crucial one. So I started back in 2010 with the Conservative Party. Was the county chair until about 2012, and then 2014 went on to the director for Northeast California.
Then I rejoined the Republican Party in 2014 and became the communications chairman in 2015.
Very good.
So we're the Amador County Republicans. We're in a rural community, and my interest is basically just to try and get the conservative message out there. I have a couple of Facebook pages. I have Conservative Angst, and I have another one that's called Conservative Alliance. And Conservative Alliance, I think, is the most important one. It's intended to be a nexus for conservative thought, conservative feedback, and hopefully get the rural communities more united, more well-informed, and to disseminate information. I have another aspect of Conservative Alliance, which is a contract for all of the Republican candidates, and it has the assignment of a few fundamentals that I think every Republican candidate should adhere to, and it's crafted essentially after Newt Gingrich's contract with America, although I'm certainly nowhere near the level of Newt Gingrich, obviously, but it's an attempt to try and get accountability, greater accountability of those elected representatives who no longer seem to represent us, as we've seen recently.
Right. And I did read that you are a former chemist and engineer. Is that correct?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, interesting. My father, he attended USC, and he was a chemist for many, many years, an electrical engineer, and probably one of the first pioneers in Silicon Valley before it became Silicon Valley. So, working with Howard Hughes, working with all these various large companies now. But he said he's done with this, and he's up in, he's out by Chico. So they're enjoying their retirement. But I think a lot of times, too, with having an analytical mind and being able to apply that to politics as far as what would work well and what's systematic and what's strategic. Has that helped you in your decision-making as far as coming back to the Republican Party?
Oh, I think so. I think it's very pragmatic, and it's also, yes, in recognizing the problem statement, as you pointed out very accurately. Yeah, there is a systematic approach, and I believe fundamentally, if you're going to solve what are these currently these complex and tractable issues in government, you need to get back to fundamentals.
Right.
And I think that's, in essence, what we need to do is get back to fundamentals, get back to the basics.
Yeah, and as we've discussed, and I would have to say almost all of our shows thus far, getting back to the foundations of our country, getting back to understanding what is the Constitution, what is the Bill of Rights, the Declaration of Independence, and my goodness, our freedoms are all within the Articles 1, 2, and 3. And so we really encourage our viewers to re-review that prior to making their final vote in reference to this upcoming presidency.
Yeah, I agree 100%, and I think if anyone's been deficit, it's in our stewardship, my generation, the preceding generation, in educating young people. You can tell these days that they are not very well versed. They're not even fundamentally, they don't even understand our basic rights. They believe the government grants them the privilege for all these rights when they're God-given. They're ours. And we're there to, government is to represent us and act in our interest. And it's reversed itself now, where government is looked at as the entity that grants us rights. And this is again, it's a travesty to see this happening. People don't even understand what the First Amendment means, the Second Amendment, certainly that's under attack. It's deplorable, the ignorance that the youngest generation has with regards to the Constitution and the founding principles. I don't even think they understand fiscal responsibility. They're so dependent, they've become so dependent on the government now and expect that. So their expectations are very high.
A lot of that too, Philip, is it has grown an entitlement attitude, which for others in different generations, we kind of shake our heads saying, how did this happen? Did we somehow create this? I'm not sure. We scratch our heads, and it's challenging for us who have worked very hard, put ourselves through school, and then have maintained being contributing citizens to our community, and seeing a different generation to where, all the school is going to be paid for. This is going to be, that would be an ideal day, but what it comes down to is we need to look at the allocation of funding. What type of funds do we have? I mean, we're in trillions and trillions of dollars in debt. And, this is the time to where we need to have someone to come in, be really strong in reference to fiscal responsibility and say, what do we have? What do we do? What do we need to do? What are the measures we need to take to clean this up?
Yeah, I think few understand that our rights are effectively only viable when we have a vibrant economy, because it's individual wealth that gives us the power, the authority. Otherwise, when we're dependent on government, we essentially have no rights because we have no vote.
Right.
So whereas many generations before us, my own included, prided ourselves on our self-reliance and independence from people and our independence from government. These new generations are basically very happy and very content and actually pride themselves on being more dependent and getting their entitlement to a cut of some government program, and it's appalling. So I think the best we can do is get out there on Facebook and Twitter and talk ourselves to our friends and neighbors, and get out there and be aggressive about it and be vocal. I mean, this is the time, 2016.
And you know,
the time. It's our last chance, I think.
I agree with you. And you know, it does come back to fundamentals and foundational thinking. I know when I was growing up, there was a show I really enjoyed on Saturday mornings, Schoolhouse Rock. Do you remember Schoolhouse Rock?
That's great.
What was the song? It was, I'm just a bill and I'm only a bill, sitting here on Capitol Hill. You know, those kinds of things. You learn from that. I mean, I'm not going to say how old I am on air, but my goodness, it was some time ago. But, you know, even programs like that for young children that wake up on Saturday mornings and, you know, just to have that available. And it's a safe environment for them to learn, and no one's shaking their finger at them, and there's no angry words, so to speak. But again, it's relearning what our country has been founded upon. And
well, this is where the media agenda now has completely changed, because then it was a public service, and I think there was a common understanding, common interest of what our country was and the freedoms we enjoyed, and the message was there to educate, to retain and sustain the future generations and understand and appreciation of our country. Now, the media has gone crazy. And in fact, I think this idea that John has here, a conservative roundtable, is great, because it's a simple solution, an elegant solution to a fundamental problem that we have. The media does not even entertain, does not even mention Republican, let alone conservatives.
And that's right. And I really appreciate John reaching out to me to be a part of this, because this is an opportunity for our viewers from across the board. For example, there could be a viewer out there that may not have that political acumen or understand it, or we could have seasoned individuals who are watching this, but the point is we have something available and it's out there. And, you know, with a lot of our guests, it's conversational in style, as you can tell. But it's also an opportunity to learn from one another and to really think about the fact that this year is pivotal for our country's future, as far as the candidate that we choose to elect as our commander-in-chief.
Yeah, and I think we also, a lot of people are focused on the presidential election and don't remember or forget, or in the background, California especially, that we have a Senate race, of course. We have many other offices that should be considered, and we need to have a stronger Republican showing in California, because this state is becoming more and more socialist, in my opinion, as we go along. And this is supposedly the 8th largest economy in the world, yet the common people, the working class, the individual, the businesses, they don't see the dividends. They don't see the benefits of us having California having the 8th largest economy. It's taxed, it's regulated. 9,000 businesses in the last 5 years have left California. So where is the benefit in having the 8th largest economy? I think the benefit is going to the elite politicians and not to the businesses, to the people that are working, the people that are struggling to feed their family and stay alive.
Right. Yes, I agree with you. The taxes in the state, it's quite a challenge, I would say, individually and families, and particularly for businesses. But moving forward, Philip, as far as our presidential candidates, what is your prediction for the next couple of months, and what would be your predictor in reference to who do you feel would be the best commander-in-chief at this point in the game? Because we still have, so we've just had New Hampshire, we have South Carolina, and then we have Nevada. So what are your thoughts?
Well, I'm drawn between a constitutionalist and I'm drawn between a more pragmatic entrepreneur, someone who has economic expertise.
Right.
A lot of people enjoy the fact that, and Trump needs to get a great deal of credit for this and being honest and direct. And if you notice, it resonates with the American people. It resonates with everyone, because people are tired.
Yeah, they're angry.
Of shadowy, deflective, insincere political propaganda that's been coming out. They need to hear the truth so they can deal with it. People can deal with the truth. So I think, as far as a prediction, I have my own candidate, but we look at economically restoring the country. I think a lot of people are going to look at that as a pragmatic answer to the problems that we're in, because with $20 trillion of debt, we're not going to have much in the way of freedoms unless we can find an economic solution, because our freedoms depend on our individual wealth. So,
Right.
you know, I'm torn, but at the same time, we need a pragmatic answer
Right.
to that question.
Right. No, I'm with you. We definitely need to have a commander-in-chief who, we need to get our finances back on track, trillions of dollars of debt, and then also with all the travesties going on in the various nations, someone who is going to be able to negotiate well, and/or a commander-in-chief who is respected. And I think that's very, very important. At this point in time, I'm not quite sure how some of the leaders from the Middle East feel about our current commander-in-chief. And
I think everyone laughs at him.
I know. So, you know, that's something we really need to consider, because there's definitely a genocide. It's a Christian genocide going on right now. It's. Yeah. I'm going to just say it. I mean, right now, ISIS, they're Al-Qaeda on steroids, and it's just not acceptable.
Yeah, someone needs to give them a very strong message so that they understand, and those groups, they only understand one message, and that's force. Mm-hmm. And that's in absolute terms. Mm-hmm. So you have to deal with them in absolute terms, draw a line in the sand and stick to it. You can't negotiate your way out of it. They only understand when you back your decision with force, and they deal with the repercussions of that decision.
Very good. All right. So with that being said, New Hampshire, the primary, we have Trump, and then on the other side of the pond, we have Sanders. And as we were discussing here at Conservative Roundtable before we're on air, we said, gosh, take a look at this. Here are two individuals who really aren't in politics per se. And the people's voice, they're saying, you know what? We're voting for this person, we're voting for that person. So what say you about these particular forerunners?
Well, I think that's the biggest, not answer, but the biggest indication of how people are thinking. They're tired of the politics. They're tired of the so-called establishment of people in a remote location making decisions that affect their lives. They're tired of the lies. They want the truth.
Right.
Some people think that Sanders is speaking the truth, but all he's offering are gifts and promises, whereas Trump is speaking the truth, saying it in a very brutal manner. But again, people need that. They need to have a very good understanding of the difficulties that are faced ahead. Americans are very good when they're told the truth and the difficulties they have to endure in the future of enduring them, if they have a future vision, an idea of what the future will bring. So I think it says a great deal about the BS that we've been hearing from politicians that have been trying to sugarcoat, you know, how the economy's doing and how our drought situation in California has been. California economy, it's a bunch of nonsense. People know that. The observable reality versus the political reality are so divergent. People know that. People can understand that. You can't fool all the people all the time.
People know that because they recognize. Take a look at, we've got Sanders and we have Trump. The people have spoken thus far. So with that being said, Philip, I want to thank you very much for joining us this evening. Appreciate your commentary, and we appreciate all that you're doing. We're going to have to take a look at your Facebook page, Conservative Angst and Conservative Alliance. Thank you very much, Philip. Have a nice evening.
Very much. All right. Good night. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Look, I got the Trump action figure. No way, that's huge. What does he do? He pretends to be a Republican. I like bailouts for the banks. Too big to fail. I gave money to Pelosi, Reid, and Anthony Weiner. Hey, Hillary, I'll give you money to be my friend. Check out my house, Mr. Trump. That's a lousy house. I'm gonna take your house with eminent domain and park my limos there. Eminent domain!
We wouldn't tolerate these values in our children. Why would we want them in a president?
CentralValleyTalk.com.